Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy here, Manny, once again. Welcome back to DFS Zone, your source for daily fantasy sport lineups for the NFL, NBA, and MLB. And before I proceed any further with the video, like always, guys, I appreciate a like in the video. And if you're new to the channel, never been here before, it's the first time taking a look at one of my videos, please subscribe below and do not forget to put on those notifications. This way you will not miss any of my daily uploads. With that being said, today is April the 5th, 2018. I hope everybody had a wonderful night. I hope a lot of you guys cashed, made some money. I didn't make any money on the NBA last night. I didn't play as many games as I normally would because I've been putting a lot of time right after I do this video. I've been pretty much putting all my attention to making lineups for my Major League Baseball games. I did cash in a major league in two smaller events, the after hours. A little quick shout out to Osimo. Osimo won the after hours. I know he has a channel here, and he's also considered one of the top daily fantasy sport players in the world. So tip my hat off to you, guy. Last night he scored, I think, a 180 or so like that, and he took first place. I finished in like 500th place. I got a few bucks out of two teams, but he pulled out the $3,000 last night. So great job, bro, man. Continued success to you. Hopefully I can be able to be like you someday. But anyway, so last night I only cashed on that two baseball events. One of the afternoon events, and then of course the after hours. I didn't play too much of the main event. I really tried to just stack on some teams, and I thought that the Colorado, as Osimo did, he stacked up on 5 players from Colorado, including the pitcher, and it worked out perfectly. I had 4 of them with the pitcher and 3 position players, and it wasn't quite enough to catch him, but nonetheless, I did cash. So not too bad of a night. NBA, the stud 5 yesterday, just to recap, man, the stud 5s for me, I don't know what the hell's going on. Everybody's getting hurt. Guys are being pulled out. Yesterday I had J.J. Barrera. He only put up 10.4 points. He only played 10 minutes. And, he was pulled out of the game, so something happened there. Jason Tatum had a horrible game. I mean, Boston terribly just didn't play at all. I don't know. I mean, you can't say they tanked. They just did not play well yesterday. And Tatum was one of those guys. He only put up 18.3 fantasy points, 4 field goals, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and 1 steal. And he totally killed me. And if anybody else played him, which there were a number of people as well. I mean, he was, he wasn't highly owned, but he was up there. Tough luck for all of us, that did play him. I was one of them. I played him in 2 lineups, and it didn't pan off. Paul Gasol came through. Holiday, just a little bit below value, but he did, he filled up the stat sheet like always. Drew Holiday, 37.6 fantasy points, 5 field goals, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 block, 3 steals, 2 3-pointers, a little bit of everything. Anthony Davis, like I said yesterday, I thought that, stacking these guys and concentrating on that game of New Orleans really badly needed to win the game. They did. I just expected Drew to have even a larger games than he did, but he filled up the stat sheet nice, not bad, 37.6, I'll take it. Anthony Davis, 58.4, was fantastic, 8 field goals, 12 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 blocks, 2 steals. He made 11 free throws, and I think he hit 1 3-pointer. So, good night for, AD. They got the job done. They're going to need to keep on playing hard. Every game is a playoff game for them right now. Pau Gasol was my 5th stud. Came through, 31.9 fantasy points, 4 field goals, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block, 13 points. Overall, not too bad, but I mean, again, I haven't been able to strike those stud 5s. Now, don't get me wrong, I give these stud 5s. I always tell everybody, I'm going to tell you again, you don't have to play any one of these guys. I didn't play them in every single one of my lineups. I only played 6 lineups total last night, and I had them in probably 3 out of the 6. And then I had some other guys that are like Richardson, I had Herzonia and a couple others, and they came through. So I mean, I can very easily give you 2 stud 5s every day. On large slates, I can obviously do even more. But obviously, the whole idea is to give you the best 5 possible plays, and I try to do that every given day. So we'll go at it again today. I mean, as we know, the season is winding down. Only a few games left. There are some games, as you see on the screen here on Fanduel. We have Golden State, Indiana. It's an important game for Indiana. Golden State, they want to just keep playing. So there's playoff implications here. Both teams are in. Indiana doesn't want to relinquish. I think they're in the 3rd spot at the moment. Yes, they are. So, they're actually in the 5th spot, excuse me. And they're 2 games back from Philly and Cleveland. The Washington-Cleveland game is going to be an intriguing game tonight because Washington really needs to stay afloat. They got Milwaukee on their heels. They're both tied for pretty much 7th spot and 8th spot combined. So they want to win. So this way, if Milwaukee pulls out that game against Brooklyn, who has the easier game, not too easy because Brooklyn could be pretty tough. But the Washington-Cleveland game is a game that you could definitely target for playoff players, for players in your lineup tonight, as well as the Brooklyn-Milwaukee game. Brooklyn is probably one of the only teams that only has 24 or 25 wins that should have about 35 wins. They lost a lot of close games, which I mentioned before, and every time I watch them play, they seem to play really hard. So I don't see them going anywhere. Today I think that, if they start losing big, they'll probably tank the game, and then they'll just move on like they did a couple of games ago. So, but if they're in the game and their shots are going down, I can see Brooklyn giving Milwaukee a rough go here. Milwaukee's going to have their hands full all the way through, and they've been really working their tail off. So it's another game to be keep your eye on. Portland, Houston. I think this game, obviously Portland is in a good spot. They ain't losing any ground. They're not going to gain any ground. And Houston pretty much locked in the 1st seed in the West. I don't see either one of these teams, anybody really focusing on any one of their players here. I'm not playing anyone in the Portland lineup or Houston lineup today. I think there's other games that have more magnitude and that the players are going to be of more importance. So I'm going to focus on other games which I mentioned, like the Washington, Cleveland, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, and then the next 2 that I'm going to mention now, LA Clippers and Utah. Man, that's a big game. That is a big game. The Clippers are 2 games back from a playoff spot with only 4 or 5 games in their schedule left. They want to win every possible game. They're going to have to. And and of course, Utah is in the 4th seed right now, and they're tied pretty much with San Antonio. San Antonio did lose last night, so that's a plus for them. Utah could pull this one out. They'll at least separate themselves a little bit from San Antonio. But then you got OKC, Minnesota, and New Orleans Pelicans, and Denver all battling for those last few spots. And then it comes to the following game, which is Minnesota-Denver. That's a playoff game tonight. I don't care what anybody tells me. That's a playoff game tonight. Minnesota is tied for 7th place with New Orleans pretty much. They're both there locked in at 44 and 34 records. And Denver is actually 1 game back. And Denver is playing really well, and Denver is hungry, and Denver is playing at home. I like Denver in this game. With no Jimmy Butler, Minnesota is really having a tough go here. They really need JB, and they do not have him. And they're going to find themselves that if he's healthy enough in another couple of games, they might have to bring him in just to try to survive this season and get into playoffs. So, but this is definitely a very intriguing game. I'm looking very much forward to these last 2 games tonight: the Clippers and Jazz, and Timberwolves versus the Nuggets. I like the Denver Nuggets here, and I like the Utah Jazz, and both games respectively. Both teams are at home. And those are games that I think everybody should be targeting, all the ones that I mentioned. All right, so with that being said, that's what's going on with the playoff push here. That's what the important thing that everybody has to focus on is try to, work some lineups around some of these guys. I'm going to go over some guys. I'll give you my stud 5. Hopefully they'll be beneficial to me as well as to you guys. Other than that, I will share with a couple plays that I think are good plays today. Starting at point guard, that's up here at the top. Obviously, we have Damian Lillard. It says here game time decision with the ankle. I don't see the reason why Lillard has to play. This is not an important game. He should rest up. I would say right now, chances are if he does play, he's going to be he's going to be in a minutes restriction, maybe just to keep him sharp. But I believe that if he is not 100%, I think they're going to sit him, and I think you're going to see a lot of Mr. Shabazz Napier. So that'll be a nice little value play for you guys out there. Concentrate on Shabazz. Now we get down to the nitty gritty here. We got Wall, we got Bledsoe, Murray, Rubio, and Paul. Out of all these 5 right here, obviously John Wall is in play. Okay, I'm going to look here at my list. John Wall is in play. John Wall's last 3 games. Let's see where we at. Well, we know that Cleveland is 22nd overall defending against point guards. The last 3 games against Cleveland, he's put up 42, 47, and 61 spots respectively. Okay, that's in the last 3 games. As you can see, he was definitely injured and not playing for a while. They gave him a little break here against Chicago. He's played 32 and 33 minutes respectively since coming back. They're going to need him here today. I mean, he is the best play between him and Beal today. for that Wizards team, he's the one that you want to focus on if you want to play him. He's not on my list to play today, but he is in a good spot with Cleveland being not that great defensively all the way around. I mean, they're not the worst defensive team in the league. Obviously not if they're the third, fourth seed in the East. But John, is in a good spot here because just simply in the matchup of who is going to defend him. You got Wall. Who's going to defend him? Is it going to be Calderon? It's just nobody. Hill is not going to play. I just got word a little while ago that Hill is not playing today. He is definitely inactive for today. So so you figure James is going to probably defend him. Maybe LeBron will be on him, but Wall is definitely in play here. Just he had, like I said, he had those 2 games. He's played 32 and 33 minutes respectively in those 2 games, and then his last 3 meetings against Cleveland, he did have a 42 back in December, a 47 in November, and 61 spot last March, which we're not going to even count. It's just what I really focus on what he's done in the last few games. But considering that he just came back from an injury, he's only played 2 games. 23 and 38 respectively. The minutes were good. His usage rate is high, 29.9, 29.6, almost 30%, and pretty much 30% if you round that off. Shooting wise, took 10 shots in the last game, 3 of 10, only hit 1 of 3 from 3-point lane, 3-point. He missed 2 free throws out of 4. He was 2 of 4 from the line, so that was a little bit of a surprise. But he did have 10 assists and he had 4 rebounds. But he committed 8 big turnovers, so he was definitely a bit rusty. And the game before that, he committed 4 turnovers. So, a little turnover prone coming back. I say he's in play for anybody want. 8,700, kind of steep. There are better plays here, but John Wall is in play. The next guy here online, Eric Bledsoe, has been absolutely fabulous. I've had him in about 3 or 4 of these games that I put him as one of my top point guards, and he has come through several times, including the 63-pointer against LA, the 50-pointer against Denver, and then of course the 42 against Golden State. I pretty much had him in my lineups, and most of my lineups, all 3 of those games. He may be in my lineup today. I like him here. He's had 3 out of his last 4 games. He's hit value. He's playing the minutes, 31 minutes to as much as 41 minutes. His last games against Brooklyn, he actually played Brooklyn back in February. He put up a 40 spot in 32 minutes. He took 20 shots. He had 12 of 20 shots. He took 8 threes, was a little under 50% there, below 40% actually. He was he was a little about 45%. He was 3 of 8 from 3-point range, and he had 6 assists. Did commit 4 turnovers. Total 28 points on the floor with 1 steal. So he had a great game against Brooklyn the last time. Brooklyn really struggles defensively in almost every category. The only thing about Brooklyn is they're very, very tough as far as they don't give up. They try to make this a fast-paced game. And Milwaukee, they're not afraid to go and run and shoot as well. So this is going to be an interesting game to watch. I definitely like Mr. Bledsoe here. I think he's definitely in play. Jamal Murray is one of my favorite here today. Okay. Mr. Murray isn't we all know the situation. Denver really needs to get into the playoffs. I don't know. I've just been leaning on them because I love Jokic as well. I like the way Denver plays. They're a little crazy. They're a little too fast-paced sometimes, but these guys shoot and shoot and shoot. Their pace is so high, and I don't know. Right now, the way Minnesota is, and without no Jimmy Butler, I don't see how Minnesota is going to be able to slow these guys down. It's going to be interesting. It really is. I think it's a very interesting game tonight. But I think Mr. Murray is going to go bananas tonight. This guy looks like he loves this fast-paced game. He loves the action. Let's see what he's done here. He's had 2 out of his last 4 games. He's hit value, 37 and 40 spots. His minutes are just fantastic, 36 and 37. And you know how I feel about minutes. The more minutes you have on the floor, the more of the usage rate you have, the more shots you take. With the more minutes you have, the more shots you take. He's taking on an average of 13, 14 shots. He had 2 games where he shot 18, and 20, just about 4 or 5 games back. And against Minnesota, he's been pretty good this year. He had a 40 spot back in December, and then a week before that, December 20th, or just before Christmas, he hit a 43 spot on him. Now, we know this is a while back, but it's no different here. If anything, this is more of an important game than those 2 back then. And he played 46 minutes in the last game, which was an overtime game, and he had 37 minutes in the game prior to that. He took plenty of shots. He ate 8 of 20 and 10 of 17, and 2 of 9 from three-point range, and 5 of 6 in the second game from three-point range. So I mean, he did a little bit of everything. 8 assists, 7 rebounds. I mean, the guy is just, when he's on fire and everything's working and he's on all cylinders, he is fantastic to watch. So definitely one of my favorite plays today, Jamal Murray, guys. Consider him. Chris Paul, I'm not on Chris Paul today. Again, to me, this is not an important game. I don't see the reason for him to be on the floor, but he's going to probably play a few minutes. So we're going to go right here to Ricky Rubio. Another great play today. Ricky Rubio is going up at home, against the Los Angeles Clippers. The Clippers are so-so. They are subpar defending against the point guard position. They are weak in certain areas, but not so much at point guard. What we have Rubio here. The last 2 games, he's put up 40 and a 48. His minutes are good, 32 and 33 minutes. His last games against against the Clippers were 29 and a 30 spot, and these were both back in January, and the one prior to that was November. So it's been a while. So and he, I see him more of an integral part of the offense now, more so than ever than 3 months ago. So that, looking back to the games against the Clippers, he did fantastic in those 2 games, but they were so far back that he's going to be even more dangerous today. So I mean, I definitely think Rubio's in a good spot here today against the Clippers. Definitely should pencil him in as a possible play for you guys today. I really do like him. Ricky Rubio. Sliding down here, value plays. Mr. Austin Rivers, good spot here too. Austin definitely has to play, and he definitely has to put up. He's getting tons of minutes, as you see here. He's getting fairly okay with the point totals. It's a little sporadic here with the fantasy points, but you know what? When you have this kind of minutes, anything can happen. Like I said before, you got minutes on the floor. If your usage rate is pretty good, looking here, he had a 36 minutes. He had a usage rate in his prior game of 22.6 and 24.9 prior to that. He took 15 shots respectively in both of those games, which is pretty fair for the amount of minutes. He's probably going to even take more shots today. He's going to have to, to try to pull out this game. Against Utah, he did have a 35 spot back in November, which is a while ago. He did play 35 minutes then. His usage then in that game was very important too. He was pretty much 27%. He did take 16 shots in that game, so it's pretty much his range. He may have to take a few more shots today. So I think at that price, 5,300, is very, very fair. Very, very fair for him to be playing tonight. You need about 20. What is that? 27. And he's been pretty good. He's been averaging, last few games. What do you have? You got 38 and 27, pretty much, if you round them out in the last 2 games. So it's more than capable of getting that done. Getting in here down to the lower area here. Not too fond of Dinwiddie today or Satoransky. Obviously, with Wall back in, he's going to get minimal minutes. Value play, Tyrese Jones. Yes, definitely. Tyrese Jones is in play today, especially if Jeff Teague is not going to play. If Jeff Teague plays, then you can look at Jeff Teague as a possible play, because he's going to have to go off and play at his all-time high today to be able to pull out that victory against Denver. So, but if Mr. Jones is playing, he's a good play. Look, 33 minutes in his last game against Utah, he put up 32 points. So he can get it done, and so can Mr. Teague. So it'll be interesting to see. But if there's no Teague, then obviously Mr. Jones is in play. 3,800. I mean, this is very cheap for a guy to come off the bench who's capable, who has an upside of 35, possibly 40. All right. So Tyrese Jones is in play. Let's go to shooting guard. We got Harden, obviously. I'm not on Harden today. 11,000. You need 55 from him. Yeah, can he get 55 on Portland? Sure, he can. He's one of the best players in the league. And he can do it any given night. But I'm not on him for today. I think that game is a meaningless game, and it don't make no sense for me. At least in my opinion, it don't make sense for me to pay 5,500 for him when I could have more value somewhere else with a couple players that are playing for something. Okay, so that's pretty much the way I figured it. Victor Oladipo, obviously in play. Let's take a look here. Oladipo, Victor Oladipo, 9,500. Pretty hefty price there for Oladipo. But Oladipo has had 4 straight games where he's hit value. His last 2 games were monstrous, 56 and 68 respectively. 35 to 37 minutes, usage rate 33 and 27%. I mean, and his shots were absolutely incredible. 19 in his last game, he shot 10 of 19 and 11 of 17 prior to that. He's been on fire the last 2 games because Indiana needs him to be. Against Golden State, he had 1 meeting with them earlier this year. Actually, it was only about a week ago or so, the 27th of March. He put up a 45 spot, and he was valued at $8,500 then. He is up a whole $1,000 more this time around, you know, and that's just the reason why, because he put up 45 the last time. You're going to need him to put up about 45 again today. You know, so very interesting game for Oladipo. I think he's priced okay. I think it's still a little expensive. I'm not certain that I'll be on him, but definitely he's in play. He's capable of putting up 45, 50. You know, he has upside, maybe even as high as 55, 60. Middleton. Middleton is a nice play like always, man. Middleton has been really great. You know, so Middleton, you know, is pretty much 7, 8 out of his last like 9, 10 games. He has hit value. His last game was 49. Has had his issues with Brooklyn. 31 and 33 minutes. Only put up 20 spot and a 32 spot. But these were back in February and January respectively. And right now he's in a, you know, they're like in a kill mode right now. They want to win every darn game. So Middleton is going to take more shots. He only took 11 and 14 respectively in those 2 games, and he's going to be on the floor longer than 31 minutes. I just, you know, there's just no way, you know, and we could see that here. Look at that, 37, 40, 40, 38, 35, 36. He hasn't been at 31 since the New York game way down here back on March 9th. So Middleton is definitely one of my favorite plays here at the shooting guard position. I think he is primed for a big game against Brooklyn, and we know Brooklyn, you know, they're not the greatest defensively in some areas. I don't think they're horrible here, but you know, they're definitely going to have a rough go with Mr. Middleton today. Next guy here on the list, Donovan Mitchell. Bradley Beal. Yeah, Bradley's in play, but if I'm going to choose any one of the Wizards guys today, it will probably be Wall. He played 28, 29 minutes in his last 2 games, 41 and 35 respectively. And against Cleveland, let's see here, against Cleveland, last time he played Cleveland, he put up a 36 spot. That was back in February. It was a win. It was a game that they won. He played 35 minutes. His usage rate was 29%, so he was definitely used a lot in that game. And obviously, you can tell with the 19 shots he took, he was 8 of 19, 2 of 5 from three-point range. He had 9 assists, 2 blocks, 18 points total. He had a pretty good game against Cleveland the last time out, but that was back in February. He's going to need to have a better game than that today. I just feel that for the price and in the game in general, I think Wall is a bit more valuable of a play today. I think Wall really is the one that's going to have to really step up and play a big-time game, and I think he's the best play today if you're going to choose anybody from the Wizards game for the Washington Wizards. The next guy here on tap here is Donovan Mitchell. I like Mr. Mitchell here as well. The Clippers are pretty poor defensively, 27th overall in the league. You know, we got 25 in fantasy points, 24 in fantasy points per minute, 24 almost near the bottom in rebounding, 25th in assists, and 26 in steals. I mean, you know, so to me he's definitely in play. 35, 31, 38, 39, and 30 minutes in his last 5 games. You know, he hasn't hit value. He's been near value, but hasn't hit value. Only hit value twice out of his last 5 games. And against the Clippers, he's done fairly well. He's played 3 games against the Clips. His last one back in January, which was a while ago. It was a big win for the Utah Jazz. He put up 41 points, 41 fantasy points in 35 minutes. Usage rate was 27.5. He shot 16 shots, was 9 of 16 from the floor, 1 of 6 from the arc, and 4 of 7 from the line. You know, he did have 7 assists as well, 5 rebounds. He had 2 steals. You know, he had a great overall game. They're going to need that again from him today to keep themselves ahead of everybody else, and not only that, to keep themselves away from giving the Clippers a chance to move up in the standings. So Donovan Mitchell definitely in play today, guys. I definitely like him there as well. We go down a little bit further. I like Wil Barton today too. I like the Denver guys. Big game today. You're gonna need a big game from Mr. Wil here. 36, 39, 40 in the last 3 games. Yeah, he had a big 50 spot in his last game. Minnesota is fairly good defensively against the shooting guard. Wiggins is not that bad of a defender, but he did have a 30 spot against Minnesota in an overtime game back in December. It was a way back, a long time ago. 33 minutes he played that game. His usage rate was 26%, and he shot 17 shots. He hit 10 of 17 from the field, and 4-8 from the arc, and 4-5 from the free throw line. Had 5 assists, had 3 rebounds, and pretty much did a little bit of everything. Had 1 steal. So Wil Barton is definitely in play at 7,300. If I go down any further than here, I don't see too much more that I really would like today, other than maybe CJ McCollum. But McCollum, I'm not on him simply because I don't believe this is an important game for Portland. He's getting the minutes. I think if anything, they should just wind down a little bit, some of these guys, at least in my opinion. So I'm not on McCollum. Is he in play? Yes, absolutely. Why not? He's one of the better shooting guards in the league. But I personally don't feel that that's a game a player I'm targeting, and a game that I'm targeting when there's other playoff implication games on the slate. So I'm going to focus on those games. At least that's what I would recommend you guys to do as well. D'Angelo Russell, I'm not on him. Lou Will, of course, he's in a playoff situation. He's in a do or die. He's going to need to step up. He was big for them early in the year. He's had to be big the last few games, and you can see he's creeping up on his fantasy points. We need him to get back up to this. He's capable. Look at that upside here. 35 minutes, 53 fantasy points. He needs to get in that area for all the Clippers to have a shot. And I think at 6,600, I think he is priced pretty nice today. To get that done, because he's gonna get usage time. He's gonna get floor time, and he has the upside, and he's gonna get the minutes. And he just has to make sure those shots go down. So Lou Will is definitely in play here. Utah is 21st overall against shooting guards, so they're not the best, but they are okay. Last time he played Utah, he put a 70 spot on them. That was back in January. So if he could shoot lights out like he did that night, as well as that night was a big night. That was the night that he had 10 steals, which is kind of unheard of. But 10 steals that night. That's one of the reasons why he got a 70.9 fantasy total points in a losing game against Utah. He put up 40 minutes, 31% usage rate. He shot 21 shots, hit 9 of 21. He had 2 of 8 from the arc, 11 from the free throw line. So he got on the line a lot, and he made all his free throws. And he has 7 assists and those 10 big steals, 31 total points. So he was monstrous that day. He's gonna need that again today. So again, look for a big game, hopefully, from Mr. Lou Will at 6,600. I think he is primed for a big game. Other than that, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, could possibly think of Wiggins here as well. He's had 2 straight games where he's hit value. Against Denver, well, he had a 27 spot the last time he played Denver. That was that December 27th game. Only shot 13 shots. I just, I'm not on Andrew today. He's been getting the minutes. He's had to. He has no choice. The last 4 games, they have had to pick it up, and he's been doing that. 41 fantasy points on his last game, 31 prior to that, 27 and 34. Just a little sporadic for me. 42 minutes here against Dallas, he only got 8 points. That's I don't know. They need more from him. They need more from him. They're like 5-5 in their last 10 games, and they really needed to win 7 out of those 10 games, and they would be sitting a little bit better here. But without Jimmy Butler, this is really, really tough on the Timberwolves. So and then of course Teague has been out off and on quite a bit, so that doesn't help. Minnesota is really in a bad situation. So I like Denver. And I don't see any other than that here. Karis LeVert has played well coming off the bench for Brooklyn, but not a meaningless game for them guys. I really don't think he's in play for me today, but he is someone you could squeeze in as value. Rodney Hood, value 4,200. I think he's played a little bit in the last few games. So Cleveland, if they get a little bit ahead here or something like that, there's going to be some times that Rodney is going to get some light here. 25. Washington is 25th against shooting guards. He shot at 26 fantasy points in his last game in 29 minutes. He got 12 shots, so you know that he took his shots. He hit 6 of 12, so he had 50%. And he also hit 1 of 3 from three-point range. He had 4 free throws. He hit all 4 of those. And then previously against Washington, 13 and 15 points fantasy points respectively in 27 and 14 minutes. Kind of sporadic, but that was way early on. That was back in January and February. So, I mean, you know, Rodney Hood, I say, you know, he's one of the last value plays that I would think here at 4,200. I mean, he's in play if you guys are interested. Small forward, real quickly, James obviously is lights out today. I mean, LeBron is going to, you know, try to do his thing. I mean, he has been fantastic this whole year. Lately, you know, minutes, you know, he's dropped the minutes a little bit, 38, 37, but he's putting up monstrous numbers, 43, 47. Not hitting his value, but almost there. I mean, because I have him here, he hasn't hit value in 3 out of his last 5 games, you know, so it's been a little bit. He's still putting up massive amount of time and minutes. He did have a 56-point, 53, and a 92-point games against Washington this year in 36, 41, and 42 minutes respectively, dating all the way back to November. So that one in November, he had 57 total points. 57. He had 11 rebounds, 7 assists. It was a monster game. 9 of 9 from the free throw line, 2 of 4 from 3, and 23 out of 34 field goals made on the floor. That is outrageous. His last game against them, he was 13 of 18, and you know, he had 9 total rebounds, 8 assists, almost a triple-double, 2 steals. 32 total points, I mean, for a 56 spot. So, I mean, LeBron is definitely in play here. You know, they don't want Washington to win. You know, they're going to definitely try. They're playing at home. So, I mean, I see him having a great game here. He is definitely in play. Out of the guys that are here, between James, Giannis, and KD, I mean, I would probably go with James. You know, they're pretty much almost about the same in price. James is just $200 more than Giannis. But Giannis is in the best position as far as matchup. You know, and that's against Brooklyn. The only problem there is that Milwaukee gets, you know, they are hot and everybody's, you know, just shooting at all cylinders, and they are doing fantastic as a team between Giannis and Bledsoe and Middleton. This game could be a blowout. You know, Milwaukee could Brooklyn could just, you know, tank it out for the rest of the game and say, hey, you know what, we're not going to go crazy. We're going to just let it go. So, with that being the main reason why maybe I would not play Giannis here out of the 3. I think the best play here is LeBron, simply because Washington is a team that is fighting for positioning, and they want to, you know, they definitely going to want to come out and play hard. So I see, I can see James, you know, showing them, hey, you know what, you're in Cleveland, and that's not going to happen. You know, we slide down here. Of course, like I say, Giannis and Kevin, they're both in play. I'm not targeting those guys today simply because of the matchups and the games not being as important. Kevin Durant's game against Golden State, Indiana. Yeah, Indiana, this is an important game for Indiana. They want to stay afloat. They only have like a 2 or 3 game lead in their position. They actually have a 3-game lead on Miami with about 4 or 5 to go. So, you know, they're going to play hard, but I'm not looking to target anybody from those games. The Porter is definitely someone you consider. So you definitely want to keep him in mind. Mr. Porter here, let's see what we got on Mr. Porter. You know, first things first, I mean, Cleveland is 29th against small forwards, so that is a problem. You know, 30th in fantasy points, 27th in fantasy points per minute, 28th in rebounding, 22nd in assists, and 29th, almost near dead last in 2-point conversions. Excuse me, guys. So Porter is in an excellent position here, needing to put up 35 with that 7,000 salary. I see him, you know, not having an issue. Yeah, he has not met 35 in his last 2 games, but he's going to definitely get an uptick here in minutes today, and especially if his shot is going down and he's playing well, I don't see the reason why he will not be on the floor. He hasn't hit value in 3 out of his last 4 games, but he squeezed in between those 3 or 4 games. He had that one monster game of 51 fantasy points against Charlotte. His last game against Cleveland, he put a 32 spot. He was under value by 5 fantasy points. He did play 29 minutes, and he got 11 shots. He's going to need to definitely produce more than that today. But that game was back in February the 22nd, and this game is a lot more important. And so I say that he's definitely in play. No Carroll here for Brooklyn, so you definitely have a couple of guys that you can use for Brooklyn, like Mr. Allen Crabbe. Okay, there will be also an uptick on Mr. Jefferson on the floor, who's been playing really well in the power forward spot. And you could also consider here Joe Harris. You know, other than that, here I don't see anybody else. Wilson Chandler, obviously, playoff caliber game today. I think he's fair to be definitely look at. He's definitely in play. 4,900. We know that his minutes are still up, but he hasn't been getting a lot of shots. Let me take even a broader look here now at Mr. Chandler. Minnesota is 6th overall against small forwards. He has put up an 18, 15, and 19 in his last 3 games, so he's not hit value. And then against Minnesota, he did put a 16 spot in their last game back in December, and then the week before that, he put a 28 spot in 37 minutes. So if he gets the minutes, and now with a sense of urgency, he may be more involved today. So, I mean, I say that he is definitely someone to consider at 4,900. You only basically need only about 25 from him. So he's got 24. He's going to be able to get that. But Jack Leah is definitely in the same situation. The only thing is with him is just that for whatever reason he has tapered down in putting up points. His fantasy point total has been really down the last 5 games in a row, and maybe 6 out of his last 7 games. And to me, that's just, it's not enough, for me to say, hey, you know what, you should definitely, now 4,400, he has crazy upside. He can actually hit 45, 50. He can have one of those monster nights, and it can happen anytime. Now, if it's going to be any night that they need him to have a monster night, it will be tonight. They definitely need to get, but I don't think it's going to happen. At least that's in my opinion. I could be wrong, but he's definitely in play for 4,400, and him getting the amount of minutes he's getting. Let's look a little bit further here. Denver's 22nd overall. Yeah, he's getting 26, 34, 37 in his last 3 games. A little up and down, but against Denver, wow, he hasn't really played much. Only 9 minutes against Denver in the last game they played against, and other than that, the previous time he didn't play at all, and that's obviously telling me that Mr. Jimmy Butler was playing, and that's the reason why. Next guy here that I think is a good play today would be this guy here, Gerald Green, because if Houston is not looking to play a lot of their guys, this is the guy that's going to get some time on the floor while those guys rest, like the Pauls and Hardens. So I think Gerald Green is definitely a nice play tonight. $4,200. He's definitely in play for me in my lineups somewhere. I'll squeeze him in there somehow. 23 minutes, 28, 28, and 30 in his last 4 games. 32 and 32 if you go even a little bit further. Portland is in the middle of the pack, 15th overall against defending the small forward. He has hit value in 5 out of his last 6 games, 27, 25. He had that one dud at 15, 24, 38, 23. And then against Portland, he had a 26 spot back in January 10th, where he was valued actually less than he's valued now. He was valued at, they gave him the cost of 4,500. He's now 4,200. So, yeah, I definitely like Gerald Green here, especially if Houston decides to not, which I think they will not play Paul and Harden a whole lot of minutes tonight because the game is not of any importance. Lower here, I mean, maybe Mr. Turner. Royce O'Neal could be a possibility because Memphis, where are they? What I'm talking about, Utah, excuse me. They have Joe Ingles. Ingles may be game time decision with his knee. I think he's going to play because this is such a big game. But if he doesn't play, then you could definitely keep an eye on that. Royce O'Neal may get some minute there. He may get some run. All right, go to power forwards. Draymond Green, definitely in play. As you can see, game time decision here. Paul Millsap, Kevin Love, all in play. Tobias Harris, Mr. Jefferson, Young. This is the one area, when I was looking at all the players in all the positions, this is the one position, the 4th spot, where there was a lot of intriguing plays here. Millsap, Love, Tobias Harris, Jefferson, Young, Favors, Morris, Henson, Parker, Aminu, more so these guys from here up. Taj Gibson, maybe not so much Aminu, but because of the game not being as important. But everybody else here is playing for something. Young is playing for something. Jefferson is playing for for respect. I mean, they're playing against Milwaukee. He's going to get an uptick in minutes because there's no DeMar Carroll. So he's going to get more shots. He's going to want to play well. And not only that, because Brooklyn doesn't really not shown to quit so much. They're not a tanking team, but they will tank if they fall behind by 15, 20 points. I could see them just, putting Mr. Jefferson and sitting all that. But the good plays here, Millsap, Love. Let's go start right there with Millsap. One of my favorite plays today, Paul Millsap, 7,500. He's been playing more than enough minutes. I'm going to pull him up over here on my other screen. 38, 51, and 48 in his last 3 games. 32, 39, and 39 minutes. Usage rate 24, 26, and 25 in his last 3 games. And look at the shots. 15 shots in the last game, shot 6 of 15, 10 of 20 the previous game, and 13 of 18 the game prior to that. It's been getting to the foul line, 8 of 11, 4 of 6, and 2 of 4. He's just been playing really well. Against Minnesota, he hasn't played Minnesota at all this year. Obviously, he was hurt most of the year, so he missed the games that they have played against Minnesota. So this is his first time going out against Minnesota. He's going to deal with Mr. Taj Gibson, who is a pretty decent defender. But I think he's just going to take care of business. Denver is just they want to get to the playoffs. I think they're going to make it too. So I like Mr. Millsap here today. He's in an awesome spot at home, playoff atmosphere game. Win, you move on. Lose, if they lose this game, they're just in a win now. Every one of these games. So they're going to go all out, and Paul Millsap is going to be a big part of it. I say you should look into him being in some of your lineups today. Kevin Love, Cleveland, Washington. Yep, Mr. Love is going to get some action. 29, 36 in his last 2 games. Look at that last game, 29 minutes, 40 fantasy points. Kevin Love, he dropping dimes, man. He has 40 and 32 his last 2 games. Not quite value, but near it. Against Washington, he threw a 37 spot back in December, and then the previous time in November, a 21 spot. Not pretty, okay, but it's a different situation now. So I say as long as he gets his 29 to 30 minutes, he has the potential to hit 40 again today, against that team, against Washington. The only deal while Washington is Markieff Morris. He's not a bad ball player, man. I like Markieff, and I like him as this lower price range guys, 5,800. I think he's definitely in play today. Tobias Harris against Utah, tough matchup for Tobias. All right, but let's take a look at him here. Utah's 3rd overall against the 4s. And, he's had a 49 and a 40 in his last 2 games. Definitely has crush value. Last game against Utah, back in January, played 40 minutes. He only put up 20 fantasy points, guys. He shot poorly, 6 of 17 from the floor. That's all due to defense. His usage was very low, only 18%. Shot 1 of 5 from 3. He had a bad, terrible game. I think he could turn it around. He's one. They're going to need Tavares. He's definitely in play today because of that. Again, the playoff implications here is what we want people to focus on today. The Clippers want to continue to win. They have no choice but to win games. They're 2 games back from all these other teams. If they want to win, they got to win out the rest of the season and not lose any more. And Tavares is going to have to be a part of that. So if you like Tobias Harris today, I say he is definitely in play simply because of the playoff implications. But I would prefer here Millsap more so than I would prefer Harris under the playoff scenario. All right, Mr. Jefferson in play, of course. Milwaukee. Jefferson's going to get an uptick in minutes. He didn't play a whole lot in the last game, because it was just not a good game at all for Brooklyn. About 29 and 39 in the games before that. Let's see Mr. Jefferson a little bit closer here. Milwaukee's 14th, 15th overall, middle of the pack in the league. He's had 2 poor games in a row, didn't meet value. And his 1 game against Milwaukee this year, he did not play well at all. He only played 12 minutes, so I don't know if he got injured or he was just not feeling well or whatever. I don't recall. But this was back on January 26th. He only played 12 minutes. Well, I know why. It was a blowout. It was 116. I'm looking at the score right now. 116 to 91 win by Milwaukee. So that can happen again today, so something to consider there. The last time they played was a blowout, so yeah, that could come to show you what can possibly happen. But if they stay close, Mr. Jefferson will get usage time, will be on the floor, and he's going to need to take shots. And when he is on, he is pretty darn good too. So definitely a guy to consider at 6,600. There are other plays though, but I would say he's definitely in play. Thaddeus Young, another guy in play, playing against Golden State. He's playing great amount of minutes as well. I like him. I've always liked him. He has been good. I have him here. 6 out of his last 8 games has hit value or better. Against Golden State, last time out against Golden State was just less than a week ago. He had 33 spot in 33 minutes. His usage was 30%. Shot 17 shots, hit 8 of 17. Had 10 total rebounds, had 2 assists, had a steal. Very productive, 17 points from the floor. I mean, he had a great game. So yeah, he's capable of doing that again. I think Thaddeus Young is definitely in play for $6,000. You need 30 from him, and I think he can get you that. Favors is another one of my favorite plays here today. Derrick Favors, Utah, of course. Again, the playoff implications here. You know, these games are brutally important for Utah, for the Clippers, for everybody else. This has hit value 6 out of his last 8 games. Last 3 games, 26, 28, and 31. His minutes have been great, 29, 31, and 31. Usage rate is a little low, 19% throughout the 3 games. Doesn't necessarily need to take up a lot of shots. We just need him to rebound and put back the ball. Basically, that's it. And block shots, you know. And he's been able to do that. 2 blocks, 4 blocks, 1 block in his last 3 games. Last game against the Clippers, he put up a 32 spot. The previous time before that, he put a 33 spot. Both games they won. And they were high-scoring games. He played 31 and 27 minutes respectively, and he had 20 and 20 usage rate in rounded off in both of those games. Took 10 shots and 8 shots respectively, and he had 12 massive rebounds in both games each, with 1 steal and 1 block. So I mean, he had good games. He's gonna need that today again. I like Derrick Favors. He had 5,900, guys. He's definitely in play. Markieff Morris is my next guy at that lower tier price range, 5,800. You know, when he steps up his game and he defends and he hits his shot, he is very darn good. 2 out of his last 4 games hit value. His last game was against Cleveland. He had a 28 and 20 spot. Not that well, just pretty much met value. His usage rate was about 23 and 21 respectively. He did play 28 and 26 minutes respectively in both of those games. And he had 10 shots in both games. In both games, he shot 40%. He hit 4 of 10. Definitely was off on a 3-pointer in the last game. Only shot 1 of 6. But he had 8 massive rebounds and 7 massive rebounds in the last 2 games. 2 steals, 1 block. You know, okay, not huge games, but we know he's capable of it. And you know what? He has a chance to do that tonight. You know, so we'll see what happens. But I say he's definitely in play. John Henson, okay, he's in play. I prefer Mr. Jabari Parker. I mean, I think he's just basically getting more minutes anyway right now, 30, 39. The last 2 games, he had that massive 55-point game not so long ago. So, you know, I think Jabari is definitely in play. 22 and 55 in his last 2 games. Last game against Brooklyn, he put up a 23 spot. That was back in February. He was only valued at $4,000 then. He only played 17 minutes, and he put up 23-20. So he's going to get 30. He's probably going to get 25 to 30 easy today. But the way it looks right here, yeah, 25 or better for sure today against Brooklyn, unless this game gets out of hand, that's the only thing you got to worry about is the possible blowout here, guys. All right. Aminu is in play. I'm not on him, but he's been playing fantastic for the Trailblazers, you know, as of late. 28, 26, 25, 32, you know, 30, 33, 12, you know, he's in play. Price range is good. I just don't think that game is an importance for me, simply because there's not no playoff implications there. I do like Taj Gibson here, you know, going against Denver. He's going to need to defend. He's going to need to play some massive minutes. Denver is 22nd overall against defending the 4. And his last game against Denver, he put up a 30 spot back in December with a 40-minute game. Shot 12 shots, hit 9 of 12, had 4 rebounds, 2 assists. Not a little bit too much. He did foul out of that game, probably with the last few minutes left in the game. So tough game for him. It's going to be tough for him now, because back then, I don't recall, back then he did not play against Paul Millsap, and now he has to defend Paul Millsap. That's the difference here. And I think that's why I like Paul Millsap as the best option here at power forward today. We're going to go on. Jordan Bell is definitely in play in the lower tier, especially Draymond Green does not play a whole lot of minutes. Going into center, you know, center is only a few guys I'm going to go over. Jokic and Towns are definitely the 2 best plays. Gobert is in a good spot here against the Clippers. I'm not on Nurkic today or Capella. These guys are playing against each other. The last time they played each other, I think Capella fouled out. These guys, if you know, when they play against one another, because they're both kind of like foul prone, one of them usually gets fouled out, so or they're going to be high in fouls. So I'm not on those 2 guys, even though they are decent plays. But this game here, again, like I said before, Portland, Houston, I now have no interest on today, in my opinion. For me, DeAndre Jordan definitely is in play, and I'm not in play with anybody else here other than Mr. Gortat, who's in a good spot. So let's go back up to Jokic here. 11,000. You need 55 from a big guy there. But you know how I feel about Jokic. I think he's the best center in the league, all-around center. He can do it all. He's had 4 straight value games against Minnesota. He did put a 45 spot against them back in December. Just 1.5 points above value, but he met value. His price range is even way higher now. That was back then. It was only 9,100. He needs to put a 55 today. I think he's capable of it. Obviously, today he's going to step up his game even more. He's done more than 55 in his last 4 games straight, which he had 66, 56, 63, and then to the last recent game, 58. So I say he's definitely in play. I'll definitely have him in a few of my lineups today. So Mr. Jokic is, he's the real deal, guys. He really is. He's the real deal. So I really like him in play. He's definitely in play today in this massive game between Minnesota and Denver. And then, of course, on the other side of the court, you have to deal with Mr. Towns. Now, Towns is not a better defender than Jokic, and that's why I think Jokic has the advantage, is that he defends a little bit better and he actually blocks shots. Towns does the same in that aspect. He did have a poor game his last game out. Let's dive in here and look at him a little bit more closer. Denver is 23rd overall against defending the 5, but he has a 47 and a 48 spot, just slightly near value in both of the games he played against Denver, and both times he was at 10,500. He is value here at 10,000. He's actually cheaper this time around. So if I was to take any one of the two, I think this game is of more importance to Mr. Towns than it would be for Mr. Jokic. Jokic is going to get his points. I'm still debating. I'm not even sure who I'm going to take just yet here, but one of these two guys is going to go off in this game, and both of them may go off in this game. But I think the one who needs to have the bigger game is Mr. Karl-Anthony Towns, okay, in my opinion. In this game here, Utah and LA Clippers is going to be Gobert, of course, versus Mr. Jordan. And Mr. Rudy Gobert, he is facing a team that's 28th overall against centers. They're pretty much bad everywhere. I mean, even closely, 28th overall in the league, 29th in fantasy points, 28th in fantasy points per minute, 28th in rebound, 14th, respectively, the assists, 28th among steals, and 23rd in 2-point. And this is like his specialty: rebounding, putting back the ball back in the bottom of the paint. This is Rudy's best part attributes that he has. He did put up a 33 the last time he played against them, and that was around the time he came back from being gone for so long, back in January 20th. It was a win for Utah. He played 28 minutes. He shot 6 of 9 from the floor. He had 4 of 7 free throws. He had 7 rebounds only and 3 blocks. I don't know. 9,000, great price. You only need 45 from him. I think he's going to get 45 today. Definitely in play. So you got 3 guys there for sure. I'm not on Nurture. I'm not on Capella. Mr. Jordan will probably be the next one in play here. And Mr. Jordan, we're looking at 29, 28, 23, 27. Not hit over 30 minutes in the last few games. I don't know why is that. Because LA needs every minute that he can get on the floor. In his last meeting against Utah, he actually did not play, which was back on January the 20th. The last time he did actually play on the floor against Utah was on November 30th, which was way, way back. And they lost 126 to 107. He played 30 minutes, and he only had 5 shots, and he had only 2 of 5 free throws, but he did have 16 total rebounds. And that's the reason why he got 28.70 fantasy points, just slightly below value. Back then he was valued at 8,300. Today he's valued at 7,000. So 35, I think he can hit that. 35 is kind of cheap for a big game like today. So definitely in play, guys. If you want to save a little bit and try to go for a stud somewhere else, I think he's definitely a play here at 7,000. And then my next play here, the cheapest here is 3,800. Miss Gortat is in a good spot here, going up against Mr. Where is he here? Going up against the Cavaliers, who are pretty bad in the center spot. This guy here has hit value in 6 out of his last 6 out of his last 7 games, and 7 out of his last 9 games. Just the last game, he had a poor game. He only played 14 minutes. And he had a 7.20. fantasy points. But the last time he played Cleveland, he hasn't done well against Cleveland. 9 points in his last game back in February, 18 fantasy points in December, and in November, his best game, 25 fantasy points when he was valued the highest at 5,900. He played 28 minutes in that game, but the two previous, only 23 and 17 minutes. Didn't take a whole lot of shots, averaging 5 to 6 shots in all 3 games. Didn't have a whole slew of rebounds. He did have in the second game 9 rebounds, but he only had 3 the last time. So I don't know what's different. The game was close. There was no blowout in the last game. It was 110-103. I don't know if it's just, it just didn't pan out. I don't see him in foul trouble here in the stats. He didn't have any fouls at all. He's not a big foul guy, at least in the last few games that he has played. Let me take a look a little bit deeper here for you guys. Yeah, he had 5 fouls 3 games back against Charlotte. Obviously, he had to deal with Howard. He's not going to have that problem here today. He is definitely in a great play. $3,800. I mean, he is dirt cheap. Dirt cheap. You got to get what, like 17, 18 from him? I mean, come on. That is cheap, folks. So he's definitely in play today. If you want to use a stud or two, stick in there, Mr. Gortat. So basically, that's all the guys that I'm looking at here, guys, today. Let me just go briefly, real quickly, and decide which guys I am going to play today. I like today, for sure, Mr. Murray. All right, he's one stud. Okay, my shooting guard, I'm going to go with Mr. Mitchell today. Mix it up a little bit. Concentrate on those games. Small forward, a little bit on the cheaper end. And I'm going to go, this is a tough one. I don't know if I should do Crab or Green. Wow, because we know Crab is going to play. Let me get back to that one. Power forward, let's do power forward. I'm going with Millsap, man. I just love this matchup today. At center, with Steph 6,100 is either Mr. Jordan or Mr. Gortat to save. I already told you guys. I'm going to have Jokic and Towns in probably 1 or 2 lineups. Mix it up. I think that they didn't play in Gobert. I'm not on these guys here for sure. I like Jordan here at the price 7,000 with a playoff implication game here. And I like Mr. Gortat here at dirt cheap against Cleveland. Let's throw that at Gortat. Let's see what we got there. So it leaves us with 6,600 if I go with Gortat. Alright, so let's put that. That was the stud 5 today. Let's go with Gortat. And like I said, you definitely have the choice with Jokic, Towns, and Gobert, and Mr. Jordan. I think those are the 4 other centers you can consider for today's games. Alright, guys? So here's your stud 5 for today. For April the 5th, we got Jamal Murray, Donovan Mitchell. Well, actually, I'm missing a guy here. Sorry, guys. Paul Millsap, Marcin Gortat, and let's go back to small forward. Keep that price range respectable here. Man, it's just nobody here unless you go with a stud. But I'm gonna go cheap. I'm just gonna leave it cheap there for you guys. Something tells me Gerald Green is gonna get the minutes. I'm gonna go with Gerald Green. All right. So you got 7,200 here to play with, which is. I can't wait until I'm done because I'm going to definitely look this up and see what kind of a lineup I can put here together. I already have a few ideas. But there you go. Murray, Mitchell, Green, Millsap, and Gortat. All right. Looks a little crazy, but you got 7,200 to play with. You could drop Gortat, go with a stud like Jokic or Towns or even Mr. Jordan, DeAndre Jordan at 7K, and you'll be okay as well. And then you can build around that. All right, guys. But I think these other guys here, Mitchell, Murray, and Millsap, I think these guys are gonna kick some butt today. All right, guys. So anyway, there goes your stuff 5. There goes the plays of the day, guys. I hope you liked the video. Please give it a thumbs up. If you want to comment anything down below, please comment down anything below. Remember, I'm still trying to debate what I'm going to do with Major League Baseball going into next week. If you want to see a stud 5, or do you want to see like my top maybe 18, 20 plays for the day? I think that would be pretty cool. If I don't get much of a response from that, then I probably would just start doing that for the first couple of games or the first week and see how that has worked for my audience. But it would be nice if you guys comment down below and let me know. Other than that, if you haven't subscribed and it's your first time here, please subscribe down below. Don't forget to subscribe. And basically, guys, good luck tonight. God bless. And your boy Manny is out.